Welcome back to Motherhood Simplified. There are a lot of people out there who talk about throwing away everything I own and starting over and what it changes for them. And from what I see, a lot of those people are sharing the process of themselves actively decluttering and setting a goal to throw away everything that they own and starting over. And I want to let you know, I've actually done this. I did this back in 2013 as a family of five. We had three kids, my husband and I, and we literally threw all of our stuff out. We brought one suitcase each. We moved from Alaska to Florida, and it changed everything for my family. It was monumental. So I want to tell you a little bit about how I did that, why I did that, and what it changed for me in my motherhood. So first, like this channel, if you enjoy this kind of content, decluttering for moms, you want to simplify, you want to make your life easier, you want to make your house easier to clean, easier to pick up, even if you have a bunch of kids. We have five, okay? Currently, their age is 5 all the way up into 18. And when I started Motherhood Simplified, we actually had 4 kids. So I've been living this way since 2013 while adding, like growing our family, adding in more people to our family, living through those baby stages, toddler stages, high school stages, and all of it. So trust me when I tell you, I understand it and I know how to help you. And not only do I know how to do it for myself, I'm actually really good at teaching it. That's one of the greatest compliments I get all the time, is that you obviously know how to declutter and keep your house clutter free, but you're also a really great teacher. So like this channel, like this video, subscribe so that you can get all of the content that's coming out soon, and comment if you find anything in here of value that you would like to share with other people in the comments. So the biggest thing that changed for me is how I show up as a mom. And right on cue. Being a mom is the most important thing in my life. It is, especially in this season of my life. All of my decisions are around my family, right? My husband, my kids. What are we doing? How are we doing it? And it's always been that way for me. And I think all moms can agree that when we become moms, we have these big visions and, desires for how we want it to be and how we want to raise our kids and how we want to show up for them and what we want to teach them and who we want to help them become. And I think we can all agree that that's what we think about, right? We think about the sweet moments. We think about the fun things. And then I think a lot of us are surprised to find out that when you have kids, especially in those first like 5 years or so, motherhood really is a series of tasks that you're doing on repeat: feeding, changing, diapers, cleaning up, getting snacks, bedtime routines, nap time routines. Like, it's pretty tedious and it's overwhelming in a lot of ways because it's so tedious, it's so repetitive, and it feels insignificant. I think for me, that's what it was. It's like the stuff feels like so unimportant, right? Obviously, it's the most important thing because that's what they need, but it didn't line up with the way that I viewed motherhood, of like having these, great relationships with my kids and like watching them grow up into adults. Obviously, that does happen eventually, but I think a lot of us are shocked, especially in those early years. And then that is compounded by anyone who has a house that has clutter in it, because clutter makes all of that harder to do and more overwhelming. Clutter makes it harder to keep up on snacks, dishes, toy messes, clothes, laundry, diaper changes, like nap time routines. Makes it all harder because it overstimulates your kids, it overstimulates you, it overwhelms you, it confuses you, it keeps things in a chronic state of like disarray. And for women especially, science has shown this, it does have a bigger impact on us as far as like spiking cortisol and making us stressed out, right? I don't know why. Could be cultural, it could be the way that we're wired. Who knows? It doesn't matter. It does have a bigger impact on us. And so throwing away all of my stuff gave me a clean break and made it so that I could be that present mom a whole lot easier. I could spend more time with my kids. I was able to model the things that I wanted to instill. I have one of my kids running around. I was able to model the things that I want to instill in them, like healthy habits, how to take care of themselves, how to take care of their stuff. I am able to create an environment that sets them up for success as adults. It's easy for them to be in. It is a place for them to retreat to. It's a place for them to relax. It's a place for them to come to at the end of the day that they look forward to coming to, because It's not a place where they're going to be nagged and bombarded with more work. They're not going to be overwhelmed. They're not going to be overstimulated. It's the opposite. They truly get to come home, and this is their sanctuary. It's a place to retreat. And I want them to want to come home, after school, sports, being with friends now, but I also want them to grow up and remember home as a place that they want to come back to, and a place that they want to recreate for themselves and their families if they have their own families when they grow up. So that's why I did it. That's what changed for me. But I'm going to get into a little bit of the nitty gritty details of how I did it and what actually changed, like what it was like before day to day and what it was like after. So my husband and I, just the short, we decided to move from Alaska to Florida with our 3 kids very suddenly. It was about a month before like my husband moved down to Florida to get a house and car and all that set up for us. I stayed behind and got rid of all of our stuff so that we could meet him in Florida. Oops, interruption from a baby. So I stayed back and got rid of everything. And the short version, you can find a lot more content on this to get like decluttering guides, tips, tutorials, how to declutter this and that. But I decluttered in the exact same way that anybody else has to declutter. I had to go through a series of making decisions, deciding what to donate, trash, what to sell. I had to decide when to sell it, how to sell it, where to sell it, who to sell it to. I had to coordinate all of the selling. I had to coordinate all of the donations. I had to coordinate all of the trash and getting rid of the trash. I just did it in a very fast way, in a pretty extreme way, but the process is the same. And I know that because I have taught thousands of other moms exactly how to do this in my course, Decluttering Simplified. And you can also get some mini courses of mine, an 11 course bundle down in the description if you are interested in learning the exact process for how to declutter a home start to finish. It's the same for everybody. It's a 4-step cycle that we all go through, but I can walk you through that decision-making process very well. So that's how I did it. Why we did it is because it was too expensive to bring our stuff with us. And that would have been a huge mistake anyway. We would have brought all of this clutter with us. And I probably never would have even known that decluttering was a thing that people did on purpose, that simplicity was a thing, minimalism, any of that was a thing if we hadn't done it. And there was a lot of resistance. Okay, so the process of how I decluttered was the same, but the resistance that I felt was also the same as you. When you're coming to declutter your home, you're probably thinking about, well, it's so wasteful. What if I need this? I'm going to keep this just in case. My kids love this. Like nobody wants to get rid of this. My kids are going to get mad at me if I get rid of this. Like, oh my gosh, like it brings up a lot of stuff where I was raised to keep everything, right? We're wasting money, we're harming the environment. All of these things came up for me and I wasn't immune to them, right? I also had to process those, but I had to do it on an accelerated timeline. And that's my specialty, right? Like that's a unique experience to me. And now I use that to teach you. Because there are some people who will say, well, it's not really fair. Like you did it in a different way. I'm like, it's a great thing that this happened to me. Otherwise, I never would be here knowing that I have a gift in teaching decluttering and decluttering, right? And it doesn't matter because you still can have success. And I don't think everybody should do it the way that I did it. And I don't think that everybody should even have a goal of like throwing away all of my stuff and starting over, because that's not realistic and it's not necessary, right? So that's the short version. There are expanded versions on this where I talk a lot about the details of like how it felt, like me sitting in the middle of the floor at the end of the night, so exhausted because I was decluttering not 1, but 2 entire houses on my own, not because we lived in 2 houses, but because I had a preschool that I owned that I ran out of a small house. But lots of other videos down below and podcast episodes down below that you can listen to for that. But life before decluttering, life with a cluttered home for me looks like going to bed at the end of the day, knowing that I had been doing things all day long. I had been busy. I had been cleaning things up. I had been organizing things. I had been going and going and going. And I still felt behind. I still felt behind on the tasks that I needed to be completed. And I also felt behind in how I was showing up as a mom. It was like I was so busy doing all of these things that I didn't even get a chance to really spend quality time with my family or with myself. So I'd go to the bed like that, feeling pretty bad. And I would wake up in the morning just to be met with yesterday's messes. All of the stuff that I didn't get to the day before was like immediately in my face. It's like the kids are ready for breakfast. I have to do dishes before I can even get them breakfast because there are no clean dishes. I have to try to catch up on laundry. I have to, take the things that were in the washer and throw them in the dryer and hope that they're dry before we have to get to school or to work. And it was a pretty miserable existence there because it was just constantly doing, constantly going, constantly tired, yet never getting ahead on the things that needed to be caught up on, and not really giving enough to my family like I really wanted to, because the stuff inside of my home was making it hard for me to show up for the people. Okay, so then I would spend my weekends just catching up. It would be like marathon laundry, just back to back, like 10 loads of laundry in a day, back to back, just trying to get caught up. Would never get caught up. Trying to get the toys organized, which at that point we had so many that it was like 2 bedrooms full of toys. The closets were full. We had multiple toy shelves. We had toys lining the walls. We had like 27 cube shelves full of books, plus my 6 by 6 foot closet full of books at the school that I owned. So I would try to get those organized. And then, of course, my kids were still pretty young. And so it was just like they would go behind me and mess it up just as fast as I could get it cleaned up. I would try to do things like clean the bathrooms. And it was just never ending. The closets were always stacked so full. Like our hallway closet would be just meticulously stacked with like wrapping paper, clothes, miscellaneous toys, overflow from whatever it was I was trying to hide from the living room and just shove it into a closet and hope that it was fine. Right. Same with our bedroom closets. Like we would have the closets full. Everything was hanging. All of the overflow was thrown at the top of the closet or at the bottom of the closet, or we'd add another cube shelf and shove more clothes and shoes on there just to try to make it all fit. It was a lot. And I remember when I got rid of everything, holding a garage sale and taking all of that stuff out of the house, putting it in the driveway, in the garage, on the yard, and realizing that I had an amount of stuff that needed like 2 housefuls of space. Like it was more stuff than could actually fit into my home. And most people have situations like that where they have more stuff in their home than actually fits. So of course it was exhausting. Of course my house was requiring me to spend most of my time, energy, mental effort, my decision-making bandwidth on this pointless stuff. And it made it really hard for me to have anything left over for my family like I wanted it to be. So fast forward, I declutter all the stuff. We have 1 suitcase each, and we get to Florida with our family, and the house that we rented was a fully furnished house. So that was helpful. Fully furnished house. Otherwise, we would have just rebought the furniture. It would have been less expensive to rebuy furniture than it would have been to ship our stuff from Alaska to Florida, believe it or not. So we rented a furnished house. We got the things that we needed, like bath towels, dishes, pots and pans, bedding for the kids. And then they had a suitcase of toys and a suitcase of clothes. And that was it. And I remember after about our 2nd week there of just waking up and having all of this time, everything was so easy. My youngest 2 were 2 and 4 at the time. And it was like, we wake up and I just make them breakfast, and then we play and play and play and play. And they played peacefully and they played together. And we could go outside and go to the park whenever we wanted to, or we could go explore and find the library or find a beach because we were living in Florida. We could come home and everything was picked up. And it was very easy, and I could make lunch, and then they could take a nap, and then I could clean up, but there really wasn't anything to clean up because they could clean up their toys on their own. And then I would work out and I would spend some time by myself. And then I would get dinner. And then it was like that for like the first month while we settled in there before I started working. And I remember about the 2nd week just being like, oh my gosh, like, all I could hear were my thoughts, right? Like my thoughts of like how guilty I had previously felt for not having time for my kids, how much baggage I had from my childhood that needed to be processed, how deeply I wanted to connect more with my husband and improve our communication and get myself into therapy to process some pretty big trauma that I had from childhood. And it was just absurd how much it cleared up my inner world to where it was almost it was kind of scary. And I remember my dad calling one time about 2 weeks in and was like, how's it going? And I just started crying of like, it's so great. It's so wonderful. And I have all these things that I need to bring up that I just never would have had the bandwidth to do it. I never would have had the bandwidth to go process big emotions from childhood if I was still stuck in the day-to-day grind of like endless laundry and endless dishes. And that is that was the catalyst to me really getting to a place where I felt like I could be a good mom. I was a good mom before. I had good intentions, but I was drowning in pointless work. I was drowning in pointless messes and stuff. It was a huge confidence boost for me because I was like, this is the kind of mom who I want to be. I want to be the kind of mom who is not unintentionally repeating toxic patterns with my kids. I want to be the kind of mom who's very intentional and strategic about what she teaches her kids and what she models to her kids and living a healthy lifestyle and doing all these things. And I wouldn't have been able to do that effectively if I hadn't got out from under my clutter, if I hadn't thrown away all of that stuff and started over. And I see that time and time again for the moms that I work with, the moms who get inside of my courses that you can find down in the description. The same thing happens for them. And it's not always a childhood trauma thing. It's not always, problems with their relationship, but it generally is one of those things. It's like they declutter their house and all of a sudden they have the mental capacity to revamp their finances and get control of their spending and pay off their debt. That happens a lot. They take control of their health and they start eating better because they have more time to cook and exercise, and they're feeling better. And so they're making better choices, right? So finances, health, relationships with your kids, relationships with your spouse, relationship with yourself, all of those things come to the surface. And all of a sudden you have the time, the energy, the bandwidth, the space, the resources to spend on those things that are way more important to you than an organizational system of like fancy bins with good labels. Like you can't organize clutter. You can try until you die and you're never going to be able to. The only solution is to declutter. So you don't have to throw away everything you own like I did. You can do it in a more effective way, like I teach you inside of my courses, Decluttering Simplified. But life after that, like, was so different. And I didn't fully realize it until 2018 when I started Motherhood Simplified. And I was a part of a Facebook group with a due date group on Facebook, which is just a bunch of people who have babies at the same time as you. I didn't realize that that was the turning point for me until I started to get to know those other moms, and they were having the same issues that I had in Alaska. And I was like, I think Marie Kondo was coming out at the time. And so I heard decluttering and it just all kind of clicked of like, my life got so much better at that point. And I just made the assumption it's because we went from cold, dark Alaska to like the opposite, bright, sunny Florida. Obviously that's going to make life feel better, not being in the dark. But that's not the case. It got better because I got rid of my stuff. And I know that because since living in Florida, we've lived in Idaho, we've lived in Southern California and Orange County. We've lived in the Midwest where we are now. None of that is Florida. So I know that that's not true. It's making my home an easy to be in place, a place that is supportive of my family, doesn't work against me, a place where my family and I can retreat and connect and be without the distractions, without the messes, without the overwhelm, without the overstimulation. And that's when it all changed. And so if you are considering throwing away all of your stuff and starting over, I support it. But if you do have kids, it's probably not the most wise decision. There is a better way. Like I said, I've got tons of resources for you in the description here. And I hope that you find this helpful. Also, go check out the rest of my channel. There's a ton of videos that I'm putting out about how to declutter, script, just tons of stuff. I'm not even going to go into all of it. You can go check it out. But thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, share this with somebody, comment if this was helpful for you, inspiring to you, and I will see you around. All right, bye.